There's a single word, just one word, that when you use it in your head, it sucks all your power away like opening a vacuum in space. And the average person uses this word about 60 to 80 times per day without even noticing. I discovered this word ruins more lives than addiction, poverty, or bad relationships combined. Want to know what it is? It's not what you think. And once I show you how you're using it against yourself, you'll never see your problems the same way again. Let me prove it to you. Listen, by the time we're done here, you're going to understand the single mental mechanism that creates about 90% of your suffering. I'm not going to give you positive thinking garbage or tell you to journal your feelings. I'm going to show you the exact irrational belief structure that's been running your life like a puppet show, and I'm going to give you the tools to rip those strings off. You feel stuck, helpless, like life is happening to you instead of for you or by you. You wake up anxious. You go to bed frustrated. You keep trying to change your circumstances, but nothing really shifts because you're not addressing the actual problem, which is happening between your ears. Most therapy, most self-help, most advice you get treats you like you're fragile, like you need to be coddled and understood and validated. That's crap. What you need is someone to show you how you're disturbing yourself with your own thinking. Not your mother, not your boss, not the economy. You. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. That's when real change happens. Right now, you probably think your feelings come from what happens to you. Someone cuts you off in traffic, you get angry. Your partner criticizes you, you get hurt. You don't get the promotion, you get depressed. But that's not how it works. Between what happens and how you feel, there's a step you're missing. There's a belief. And that belief is usually some version of this must not happen, or I must succeed, or people must treat me well. These demands, these absolutist, childish, unrealistic demands, are what create your helplessness. I'm not going to ask you to think positive. I'm going to teach you to think rationally, to prefer things without demanding them, to want things without needing them, to distinguish between I'd really like this and I absolutely must have this or I'll die. That distinction is the difference between disappointment and devastation, between frustration and depression, between feeling like a capable adult and feeling like a helpless child. So that word I mentioned at the beginning, it's must, and its cousins should, have to, need to, got to. These words create emotional disturbance by turning preferences into demands. When we tell ourselves we must have something, we give away our power to external circumstances. Here's what most people don't understand. Most people think this way. Something happens to you, the activating event, and that causes how you feel, the emotional consequence. Traffic makes me angry. Rejection makes me depressed. But between the activating event and the emotional consequence is something else, your belief about the event. Your anger doesn't come from traffic. It comes from your belief that traffic must not exist when I'm driving or I must get to work on time. This is crucial because you can't control the activating event, you can't control traffic, but you can absolutely control your belief. I call this masturbation, and yes, I mean for it to sound a little dirty, because it is a form of mental self-abuse. You're beating yourself up with impossible demands. I must be perfect. People must treat me fairly. The world must be just. Every time you masturbate, you create anxiety, anger, or depression. It's mechanical, automatic, predictable. There are 3 categories of musts. First, demands about yourself. I must perform well and be approved of, or I'm worthless. Second, demands about others. People must treat me kindly and fairly, or they're horrible. And third, demands about life conditions. Life must be easy and give me what I want, or it's awful. Notice how all 3 put you at the mercy of things you can't control. When you operate from must, you've set up a reality where you can only feel okay if external conditions align perfectly. That's helplessness. You've literally made your emotional well-being dependent on things you can't control. It's like saying I can only be happy if it never rains. Well, guess what? It's going to rain, and now you're screwed. I remember early in my career, I was terrified of public speaking. Absolutely terrified. And I realized my demand for approval was creating the anxiety, not the speaking itself. I was telling myself I must speak perfectly and everyone must approve of me or I'm a failure. That's an impossible standard. Nobody speaks perfectly. Not everyone approves of anyone. So I was guaranteeing my own misery. Think about it like this. People act like there's a cosmic scorekeeper, some universal accountant who's supposed to make sure life is fair. And when it isn't, they're outraged. But there is no cosmic scorekeeper. The universe doesn't owe you anything. It's not fair or unfair. It just is. And when you demand fairness, you're setting yourself up for constant disappointment. I had a client once, a businessman who demanded his employees respect him. Every time someone questioned his decisions, he'd get furious. He'd go home angry, sleep terribly, come back the next day, still resentful. I asked him, "Where's the law that says your employees must respect you?" He said, "Well, I'm the boss." I said, "So what? Being the boss means you have authority. It doesn't mean people have to like you or respect you. You can prefer respect. You can even require certain behaviors. But demanding that people feel a certain way about you, that's giving them all your power." He shifted to preferring respect while accepting reality. And you know what happened? He became less angry, less desperate, more confident. And ironically, people started respecting him more because he wasn't trying to force it out of them. Now, you might be thinking, but Dr. Ellis, aren't some things actually that important? Shouldn't I demand that I succeed or that people treat me decently? That's a damn good question. And the answer is going to surprise you, because I'm about to show you the difference between healthy caring and sick demanding. The solution isn't to stop wanting things or caring about outcomes. That's impossible and undesirable. The solution is to transform demands into preferences. This single shift returns all your power. A preference sounds like this: I strongly prefer to succeed, and I'll work hard for it, but I don't have to succeed to be a worthwhile person. A demand sounds like this: I must succeed, or I'm a complete failure. See the difference? One keeps you in the game. The other destroys you if you don't win. Preferences create motivation. Demands create desperation. Here's the paradox that blows people's minds. When you prefer something instead of demanding it, you actually perform better. Why? Because you're not paralyzed by anxiety about what happens if you fail. You're free to focus on the task instead of on your catastrophic predictions. Athletes call this being in the zone. I call it rational thinking. Think about a tennis player. The one who must win the point tenses up and double faults. The muscles get tight. The mind starts racing with what-ifs. The one who prefers to win the point stays loose and plays better. Same skill level, different belief system, different outcome. Start catching yourself. Every time you notice I must, I have to, I need to, I should stop. Ask yourself, is this a cosmic law? Is there a universal rule that says this must be so? The answer is always no. Then reframe. I'd strongly prefer this, but I don't absolutely need it. Watch how your emotional temperature drops immediately. But Dr. Ellis, I really do need this job to pay rent. No, you strongly prefer to pay rent. If you lose the job, it's highly inconvenient and you'll have to work hard to solve the problem, but it's not the end of the world. The difference matters because when you think you need it, you interview desperately. Your energy is off. You reek of neediness. When you know you strongly prefer it, you interview confidently. You show up as someone valuable choosing to work there, not someone begging for scraps. Which person gets hired? While I was in my 20s, I had terrible anxiety around women. I wanted approval so badly I could barely talk to them. So I gave myself an assignment. I went to the Bronx Botanical Garden and I talked to 100 women in 1 month. Just walked up and started conversations. I got rejected about 90 times. And you know what I learned? I could stand it. The rejection didn't kill me. It was uncomfortable, sure, but I survived. And the more I did it, the less I demanded their approval, the more comfortable I became. That's the rubber band metaphor I use. Demands are like pulling a rubber band tight. All tension, ready to snap. Preferences are like holding it loosely, still engaged, but flexible. You're still trying, still working toward what you want, but you're not strangling yourself with impossible requirements. Okay, so you're starting to see how demands create helplessness and preferences create power. But here's where people get tripped up. They confuse this with not caring or being passive. So let me show you what I call the 3 twisted thoughts that keep people stuck even when they know better. Beyond the basic musts, There are three specific irrational belief patterns that transform ordinary disappointments into psychological catastrophes. I call them awfulizing, I can't stand it, and damnation. Awfulizing is when you take something bad and make it not just bad, but the worst thing that could ever happen. I failed the test. This is awful, terrible, horrible. No, it's bad. It's unfortunate. It's inconvenient. But awful? Awful is reserved for genuine tragedies. Torture, death, severe suffering. You're rating a disappointing event as if it's 101% bad, worse than it could possibly be. That's irrational. And it makes you helpless because you've convinced yourself you're facing an unsurvivable catastrophe when you're really just facing an inconvenience. I had a woman come to my office absolutely convinced that her divorce was the end of the world. She kept saying, "This is the worst thing that's ever happened to me. I can't go on." I asked her, is it worse than death? Is it worse than terminal cancer? Is it worse than losing a child? She paused. She said, "Well, no, but feels that bad." I said, "Exactly. It feels bad because you're telling yourself it's awful. But feeling bad and it being awful are not the same thing. You're creating the awful with your thinking. Then there's I can't stand it-itis. This is low frustration tolerance. I can't stand this. I can't bear it. This is unbearable. Oh, really? You're standing it right now. You're bearing it. If it were truly unbearable, you'd be dead or psychotic. What you mean is I don't like standing it or I find it very difficult. But when you tell yourself you can't stand it, you create helplessness. You've literally told yourself you lack the capacity to handle your own life. That's a self-fulfilling prophecy. I've seen people sit in my office for an hour complaining that they can't stand their job. I say, "How long have you had this job?" They say, 5 years. I say, "So you've been standing it for 5 years." They look confused. They say, "But I hate it." I say, "I believe you. But hating it and not being able to stand are different things. You're standing it. You've proven you can stand it. The question is, do you want to continue standing it? Or do you want to make a change? But don't tell me you can't stand it while you're actively standing it." And then there's damnation. This is the big one. I failed, therefore I'm a failure. I'm worthless. I'm a complete loser. Or directed outward. He treated me badly. Therefore he's a horrible person who deserves to suffer. You're taking one behavior or outcome and using it to define total worth. That's insane. You're a complex human being who does millions of things. You can't be a failure. You can only have failures. You can't be worthless. You can only do things that don't work. This distinction is everything. My first marriage failed. That's a fact. I could have damned myself as a failure who's unlovable and will always be alone. Instead, I saw it as an unfortunate event that happened between two people who weren't compatible. I didn't become a failed person. I remained a person who experienced a failed marriage. See the difference? One destroys you. One leaves you intact and able to try again. Think about the logic of damnation. One rotten apple doesn't make you a rotten orchard. One failed test doesn't make you a failed student. One rejected proposal doesn't make you an unlovable person. You're rating your entire existence based on one data point. That's like judging a restaurant based on one bad meal or judging a city based on one bad neighborhood. It's illogical. Here's how these three twisted thoughts work together to destroy you. Something bad happens. You get rejected. You masturbate. I must be approved. Then you awfulize. This rejection is terrible. Then I can't stand it. I can't bear this rejection. Then you damn yourself. I'm a complete loser who will always be rejected. Now you're in hell. Helpless. Depressed. Anxious. All from one rejection plus 5 irrational thoughts. Most of what we call mountains are molehills with our irrational beliefs piled on top. The event itself is manageable. The beliefs about the event are what crush us. Now I know what you're thinking. This sounds great in theory, Dr. Ellis, but how do I actually stop doing this when I'm in the middle of freaking out? That's the practical question, and that's exactly what I'm going to show you next. Disputation is the active process of challenging your irrational beliefs with logic, evidence, and realistic thinking. It's not positive thinking. It's realistic thinking, and it works. You already know the ABC. Activating event, belief, consequence. Now add D and E. D is disputation, actively challenging the irrational belief. E is the new, effective emotion and behavior that results. So it goes like this. I got rejected. That's the activating event. I must be approved or I'm worthless. That's the belief. Depression, that's the consequence. Then disputation. Where's the evidence I'm worthless? Have I been approved before? Can I stand this? And then the new effective response. Disappointment instead of depression. Trying again instead of giving up. There are 3 types of disputation. Logical disputation. Does it logically follow that because I want approval, I must have it? No. Empirical disputation. Where's the evidence that I'm worthless? Show me the data. Pragmatic disputation. Is believing I'm worthless helping me or hurting me? Is it getting me what I want? Use all 3. Hammer your irrational beliefs from multiple angles until they crumble. Ask yourself questions like this. Why must this be so? Where's the universal law that says this? What's the worst that could realistically happen? Have I survived similar things before? Will this matter in 5 years? Am I confusing a preference with a necessity? Don't let yourself off the hook with vague answers. Demand evidence. Be your own skeptical scientist. Treat your beliefs like you're in a courtroom. You're both the prosecutor of your irrational belief and the defense attorney. Present evidence. Cross-examine. If someone said to you, I'm worthless because I got rejected, what would you say to them? You'd ask for proof. You'd challenge the logic. You'd point out all the times they succeeded. Do that for yourself. Even if the worst happens, you lose the job, the relationship ends, you fail publicly, so what? You'll be disappointed, frustrated, sad. Those are appropriate emotions. But you won't be destroyed unless you choose to destroy yourself with demands and awfulizing. You can handle disappointment. You've done it before. You're doing it right now with various small things. Scale that up. You're more resilient than your demands allow you to believe. I spent years disputing my own fear of rejection. I systematically approached situations I was afraid of and proved to myself I could stand them. Every time I did, the fear got smaller. Not because the situations got easier, but because my beliefs got more rational. I had a client who was convinced he couldn't stand his job. He was miserable. Every day was torture, he said. I asked him to keep the job while he looked for a new one. He stayed there 5 more years before finding something better. 5 years. He proved he could stand what he thought he couldn't stand. And that proof changed how he saw himself. He realized he was stronger than his beliefs told him he was. All right, you've got the tool. You know how to dispute. But here's the thing nobody tells you. Knowing isn't enough. You got to practice this like you're training for the Olympics. And that brings me to what I call rational living, the daily practice that makes this automatic. You've been practicing irrational thinking for years, maybe decades. It's automatic. To replace it with rational thinking, you need deliberate, consistent practice. This isn't something you do once and you're cured. This is a lifestyle change. Every day, pick one situation that bothered you. Write down the ABC, the activating event, your belief about it, and the emotional consequence. Then dispute the belief. Do this on paper, not just in your head. Writing forces clarity. Do it for 90 days straight. After 90 days, you'll start catching irrational beliefs in real time. After 6 months, you'll dispute them automatically. This isn't therapy, it's training. Here's a powerful exercise I call shame attacking. Deliberately do something mildly embarrassing in public. Sing on the subway. Ask a ridiculous question in a store. Wear mismatched shoes. Why? To prove to yourself that embarrassment won't kill you. That you can stand what you thought you couldn't stand. That your demand for approval is arbitrary and changeable. This builds frustration tolerance like weightlifting builds muscle. When I was in my 80s, I still did shame-attacking exercises. I do silly things in public just to remind myself that I didn't need approval. That I could handle looking foolish. People would stare. So what? Their opinions of me didn't define me. That practice kept me sharp. Develop a few key rational statements you repeat when you notice demands creeping in. I prefer this, but I don't need it. This is unfortunate, not awful. I can stand what I don't like. I'm not defined by my failures. Don't just say them. Mean them. Argue for them. Prove them to yourself with evidence from your own life. Throughout your day, Notice when you use should, must, have to, need to, got to. Each time, pause. Ask, is this a preference or a demand? If it's a demand, reframe it. I'd strongly prefer to blank, and I'll work toward it, but I don't absolutely need it for my worth or happiness. This simple habit, practiced consistently, rewires your brain. Learning rational thinking is like learning piano. It's awkward at first. Your fingers don't know where to go. You hit wrong notes. But you practice every day, and eventually it becomes automatic. You don't think about where your fingers go. They just know. Same with rational thinking. At first, you have to consciously catch yourself and dispute. Later, it happens without effort. I had a client who practiced disputation daily for a year. She wrote in a journal every single day. At first, she said it felt forced, mechanical, like she was just going through the motions. But around month 3, something shifted. She started noticing her irrational beliefs before they fully formed. By month 6, she was disputing them in real time. By the end of the year, she said she felt like a completely different person. Same life, same circumstances, different thinking, different emotions, different results. Think of it like a garden. You have to actively pull irrational weeds and plant rational seeds consistently, or the weeds take over. Your brain will default to what it's practiced most. Right now, that's probably irrational thinking. But with practice, you can make rational thinking the default. So here's where we are. You now understand the mechanism of helplessness. Your demands, your awfulizing, your damnation of yourself and others. You know the solution. Preferences, realistic thinking, disputation. You've got the tools. Now, there's only one question left. What are you going to do with this? Let me recap what we've covered because this is important. You learned that helplessness isn't caused by your circumstances. It's caused by your demands about those circumstances. You discovered the 3 major musts that run most people's lives and create constant emotional disturbance. You saw the difference between preferences and demands, and why that difference is literally the difference between power and helplessness. I showed you the 3 twisted thoughts, awfulizing, I can't stand it, and damnation, that transform disappointments into catastrophes. You got the disputation method, the ABCD framework, and specific questions to challenge your irrational beliefs. And you learned the daily practices that make rational thinking automatic instead of effortful. Here's what I want you to understand. You're not helpless. You never were. You've been making yourself helpless by holding onto irrational beliefs that don't serve you. And the beautiful thing about that, if you created it, you can uncreate it. Your helplessness is a choice, an unconscious one until now, but a choice nonetheless. And now that you see it, you can make a different choice. I don't want you to feel better for 5 minutes and then go back to masturbating all over yourself. I want you to take one irrational belief, just one, and dispute it every day for the next week. Pick the one that bothers you most, the one that makes you most anxious or angry or depressed. Write it down. Challenge it. Ask for evidence. Demand logical proof. Don't let yourself off the hook. You're not fragile. You're not made of glass. You can handle disappointment, frustration, failure, rejection, and unfairness. You've been handling them your whole life. The only question is, will you handle them rationally, with your power intact, or irrationally, making yourself helpless? You know what nobody talks about? The hidden cost of being nice. Most people think being nice is a virtue. It is, until it isn't. Until it becomes a trap. Until you're so busy being nice that you forget to be honest. And that dishonesty, that fake niceness, destroys relationships faster than outright rudeness ever could. I made a whole video about why fake niceness is killing your relationships and what to do instead. It's called The Toxic Side of Being Nice and How It Destroys Connection. If you're tired of people-pleasing and want to learn how to be genuinely authentic without being an asshole, click the video on screen now. You'll learn why approval-seeking is a trap and how to build real connection instead of perform niceness. Go watch it. Your relationships will thank you.